Hello and welcome to another episode of 4 Wales See Wales with me, Mel Owen.
Me, Robin Morgan.
And me, Will Hayward.
Guys, how is it going? Nice to see you.
You too. Good, I think.
Yeah, all right?
I think so.
Question mark.
Everything's fine.
Yeah? How about you?
So much politics.
A lot of politicking going on today.
Yeah, we're sort of recording live during Rachel Reeves' Wednesday giveaway spectacular. That's what she's calling it, right?
Yeah, the supermarket sweep, except for they also scan your credit card as well.
Yeah,
Absolutely,
that.
yes.
I listened to a little bit of it on the way in here, and do you sometimes feel this when you're doing gigs and they laugh too much early on, and you get suspicious,
Yeah.
and you're like, "Are you taking?" Sometimes I get to a gig like, and like somebody is like laughing way too much. I'm like, "Is this a joke? Have you come in to like be a dick?"
Yeah. I get that.
And
yeah.
they're just really excited. But the amount of praise from her own backbenchers, like that she was getting
Yeah.
early on, they're like,
planted
"Hey,"
questions.
after every line. I was like, that's just the setup. That's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
even like the punchline. Like you just.
She stood up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It feels like too much praise just baffles me. I can deal with
Yes.
heckles, but praise, no.
The
No.
bleating walruses just
Yeah.
going, "Brrr."
Oh, it's the most unappealing part of politics. Not the most unappealing. There's many, there's many unappealing
One
bits.
of the many unappealing parts.
But it's just like you say, old walrus men on the boat. Ooh, shut the fuck up. Sorry to come out so quick
No.
with an aggressive bit. But do you know what I mean? I'm just like,
Imagine
what
if
are
she
you
said
doing?
that though, like page one of the spending review. Shut the fuck up, actually, Kemi.
This is why I could never go into politics,
Yeah.
because I would.
But do you think that like it's interesting now is obviously like, you know, MPs are around our age and like
Oh,
MS
that's
is
wild to me,
like
yeah.
generation wise, like sure, like if you know society is moving on and we're getting less worried about swearing and stuff,
Yeah.
you're not allowed to swear in the Commons, are you? Like the speaker would really like slap your wrists for that.
You'd be reprimanded. You'd be asked to apologise.
You have to withdraw. Could you withdraw the C word, please?
Yeah, I mean, you could be
Okay.
asked to leave.
Goodness gracious.
Oh no, I'd be like being dragged out like two fingers up to everybody's. Another thing.
Some people don't notice because they're just watching porn on their phone.
Yeah.
That is the way I argue. I huff out, I storm out, and then I open the door again. And another thing, actually.
You're a
Well,
last
that's
worder.
it.
Yeah.
You want the last
Oh,
word.
yeah. Or like me and my mum, if we're arguing, it's spectacular because like I'll storm out, say something under my breath, like, "Oh my god, what a bitch!" And she's like, "What did you just say?" And I'm like, "Oh, you can't hear me when I'm in the room with you." Oh, okay, sure. Even if you listen to me, mum, we wouldn't be arguing. Anyway, this is not for the pod. Sorry, producer, for the way I yelled into the mic.
I liked it. I liked it a lot.
Keep it in. So, because we're recording this while the spending review is going on, it was the only way we could make recording work this week. What we're not going to do is try and do a breakdown analysis of
Yeah.
the spending review because, frankly, a lot of the politicians who are going to be commenting on it today don't actually know what it actually said. So, we're going to wait till proper breakdown of what it means because, for example, like how things work with like the Barnett formula and stuff are quite complicated, and sometimes chancellors have been known to give with one hand and take away with the other hand. So they might be like, "Oh, you're going to get this extra stuff," but then actually it works out that you're not going to get as much as you thought because something else has been reduced. So things we do know is Wales is going to get about £445 million for rail. The UK government are saying that this is because of HS2, and this represents the amount of money Wales would have got from HS2 up to this point. And now that seems about right. It's actually a little bit more than Wales would have got if HS2 had been properly Barnettised, so treated as an England-only project.
You've got
love that.
Barnetted.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Barnetted.
Been Barnetted.
Loved that.
But the key thing, and I don't want to get ahead of myself here, but I've already been told that there isn't going to be any kind of changing of how rail funding is allocated in the future. So it doesn't stop this thing happening again. And the other thing to bear in mind is most of the spending for HS2 is coming. It hasn't happened yet. So that really
much
ramps
like
up.
a delayed train.
much like a delayed train where you can't claim it back. Basically, the full amount of money that Wales would have received if it had got everything from HS2, some of that won't have been received yet. This does nothing to stop the kind of long-term underfunding that we will see in Wales, but it is some money and it's going to be spent on a whole range of projects. We'll go into it all next week. It's also, there's going to be, as I understand it, extra money for coal tips. So everything the Welsh government has asked for, so about 118 million on top of the 25 that's already been allocated, which, if that is the case, is actually a really significant amount of money and does go some way to righting a very historic wrong that's done to Wales.
May I ask a question? When you say this money is going towards coal tips, what do you mean by going towards? What would it actually be used for? How would people feel the difference?
So there's 2,500 coal tips in Wales. So basically the waste left over from mines. Some of them are absolutely fine. They're basically, you can't even kind of see they're there. Stuff's grown over them. They're not at risk of collapsing or anything like that. And actually they've been almost rewilded and they've become just part of the scenery, as it were. But there's others which are like really precarious, really at risk, really dangerous. When it rains, there's a real risk of them collapsing. In order to make safe those most risky ones, will require, over £100 million. And it depends on the coal tip themselves. Some of it could be removing the waste. It can be putting up supports to stop it from collapsing. It can be regenerating the site, because a huge tip of coal and slag and waste is not a nice environment to have above your community, even if it isn't at risk of collapsing. So it's about regenerating those tips. So it depends. It will be taken tip by tip, but that is actually, if that's the case, quite a substantial amount of money.
This always feels positive for Welsh Labour, right? Like they've kind of got what they've asked for, in theory.
So on that will be what they've asked for. The devil is going to be in the details, which is why I'm hesitant. I don't want to be negative about it, and I don't want to be too positive about it, because we just don't know. The early signs are this is going to be a lot more money than Wales was going to have. But whether it's what Wales should have by right, whether what it deserves to have, remains to be seen.
That's relative though, right?
Yes, exactly. So next week, we're going to go into this in detail, because it takes time to analyse stuff, because it's really, really complicated, because there's certain things where, say the UK government says, Rachel Reeves stands there and she goes, I am going to add this much.
She's in the room.
I know.
Really good.
I might have injected a bit too much personality into that, but stay with me. I am going to allocate an extra £100 billion to the NHS. And you think, okay, right. So Wales will get roughly 5% of that. That's really good. But if she's then going to cut that much from housing, that is also devolved. So that'll actually come off how much Wales will get. I'm not saying they're doing either of these things.
Sure.
Yeah.
Although they are putting a lot of money into the NHS. But what I don't want to do is say stuff when I don't actually know yet.
Absolutely. And thank you for that, as a journalist that we know and trust. Thank you.
Idiots. So what we're going to talk about is stuff that we do know. So yeah, let's do it.
God is real.
Thank you, Darren.
It's Darren Miller's in the room. We've got Rachel Reeves with me, Darren Miller as Robin.
Yeah.
Who are you going to be portraying today, Mel?
Oh, who am I going to be? I think people always love it when I portray Andrew Arty. I think that's a real fan favourite, right? Yeah.
God, so Darren Miller, Andrew Arty Davis,
Oh, yeah, we've got two.
and Rachel Reeves in the room.
Yeah. So we will do serious politics in a minute. But,
fuck
and this makes me so happy, someone tweeted me this week saying, in a shag, marry, kill of us three,
Oh, no.
I was their marry. They didn't specify what you two were.
I think he's the shag, isn't he? He's a handsome
We
man.
can't be making assumptions, Robin. I can't tell you how happy it made me.
Mary's the best
And
one out of it, I
say,
think.
Mel, you're my friend. I have a lot of respect for you.
Thank you.
Robin
But-
is clearly the marry out of us three.
Do you think so?
You are a safe pair of hands. I'm a liability.
Taken.
Heartbreaking.
It was actually
Yeah.
Jenny who messaged him.
Yeah.
That's how we're breaking up.
God. Imagine that. Horrendous stuff. That's interesting.
It made me so happy. I felt like I needed to share it.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
People are talking.
They
People
come
are
to Will
talking.
with political questions. They tell you how much they love you on the BBC, and they tell me that they want to marry me.
Yeah, that's fine.
Someone actually messaged me this week saying, I really love the podcast, but why don't you try doing less giggling and going off on less tangents?
Wrong podcast, pal.
Yeah.
Which, to start with, thank you for the support and listening to the podcast. We genuinely do.
I disagree with that.
I need you to leave.
We genuinely do appreciate it.
Unsubscribe.
I'm going to break your phone.
I would.
How?
I mean, apparently we also want to fight you
Yeah, I'm going to frame you for murder.
of me. And we'll know it's you because and we'll know it's you because you'll have killed me. You'll have married Mel and shagged Robin.
I'm going to gone girl you so hard.
On the drive back from the studio, I always do think, have we gone off on too many tangents there? And then I just think, one, I don't care.
Yeah.
And two, I do think that the point of this podcast is to bring people in, and actually, we get a lot of people telling us that the tangent's their favourite part. If sometimes the only part they like.
But also, I will say there are other political podcasts, albeit not as good as ours, but there are ones who do like really, and I mean this in a good way, really dry, very stats-driven, very fact-driven kind of podcasts about politics, and they're brilliant. But that's just not who we are.
Yeah.
You know?
I'd like to say I am stats and facts driven.
You are.
We're more shag, marry, kill driven.
Yes. So feel free to unsubscribe.
Okay, let's... Turning on our listenership.
Only one of them, and we know it's a he.
Let's move on. As we know, because we read the news, there is a lot of crime.
There is crime about.
Crime is about. Have you ever been broken into? I've been broken into.
No, I haven't. Have you?
Yeah, a couple of years ago, two kids jumped over our back fence and nicked me and my wife's bikes. But during uni, someone broke into our uni house and they nicked every single laptop inside there, apart from my housemates, which was an Acer laptop.
Yeah, well, there we go.
And they used that to break the window to get out. True story.
Double insult.
Yeah.
Well, do you know where you could have stored your valuable?
Go on.
Go on.
Inside a lion container.
Oh, yeah. Couldn't break that.
They would not be able to smash their way in or the way out.
absolutely.
Even that laptop would not have done any damage.
That's right. Even an X.
Because it's guarded by lions.
Yeah.
They are. What's really good about them is you don't need planning permission. If you've got an outdoor space, you can store them there. They're super secure. It's where you can store your valuables in a way that you are safe in the knowledge that they're going to be safe.
Yeah, and wind and watertight. All this extreme weather we're getting at the moment as well. Not affected.
Are they watertight?
They are wind and watertight. Yeah.
I worry about that. Like, I've got a little office at the bottom of my garden that was an old garage, and every single sort of winter, every time it's raining, I genuinely do go in and go, it's fine today.
Yeah. Is today going to be the day?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So if you want to get a bit of secure wind and watertight outdoor storage, I suggest you go to lioncontainers.co.uk.
What's that website?
It's lioncontainers.co.uk.
Thank you.
Okay, so do you remember last week we talked about that Oxford to Cambridge railway, which has been defined as an England and Wales project? Big talking point. People are like, this is just HS2 all over again. Well, basically, there's been a bit of a mystery. A bit of like Scooby-Doo. Pull off the mask. Rachel Reeves!
Yeah. It's a good impression of her, actually.
Thank you.
Woof.
Woof.
Woof. It was me all along.
Keir Starmer. It was me all along.
Yeah, I'd love to get a good Keir Starmer impression.
It's quite a hard one to do.
Yeah.
Stood there with his dad's tools.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Change. It's quite like he's got bread in his mouth.
Yes.
Change.
As we know, a Welsh Liberal Democrat MP, the Welsh Liberal Democrat MP, there can only be one, stood up in the House of Commons and asked, is it been defined as an England Wales project? A man called Simon Lightwood, don't worry, his name won't be on the test, stood up in response from the UK government and said it is an England and Wales project, which means that Wales loses out. Now, fine. But when you go to the Treasury Statement of Funding Policy, so if you have several hours to kill, you can go and look at the Treasury Statement of Funding Policy, and it has every single project in transport, and it says how much of it is, whether it's an England project, a Wales project, and it does it with a percentage. So if it's 100%, that means that it's an England-only project and Wales will get 100% of its funding. It's 0%, which is what HS2 is. It means that it's an England and Wales project and Wales will get left out. If you go to the section which has the Oxford and Cambridge line, which is called East-West Rail, weirdly, it has 100% for Wales, which means it's an England-only project.
Right.
So either the Treasury have got that wrong when they announced it, or their documents are wrong. Mm-hmm. So I went to the Treasury and I said, what's going on? What's the deal with this? And they came back and they said to me that this was an error. This was a mistake. It shouldn't have been listed as 100% as a England-only project. This was a mistake. It will be changed after the spending review.
Okay.
People make mistakes.
Sure.
Now, one problem with this. This mistake has been in place since 2020.
Oh, that's a long time for them to have realised and changed.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of mistakes.
For 5 years, this has been listed as an England-only project, which means that Wales has been receiving money.
That's good.
Yeah, which is good. But now they've said, don't worry, we're just going to change it. So either one or two things has happened here. Either the all-knowing Treasury has made a mistake, which it only realised when a journalist asked them about it after half a decade, or they have retrospectively gone in and said, actually, we're just going to change that because it will save us some money. Now, if that second one is the case, that is a massive, massive problem, because that means that essentially there is no actual formula for working these things out. It just means they've gone, actually, we don't really have to give Wales that money. Let's just do that, which is kind of what we've kind of suspected they do all along. So I spoke to an academic called Guto Ivan, who is from the Wales Governance Centre, and he is like a bit of a guru when it comes to this sort of stuff. And he told me that, he said, what I take issue with is the description of this as a publishing error. If East West Rail project changes to a 0% weighting in the next statement of funding, this is not the correction of some kind of typing error. It's not a typo. It's a reclassification of a project and makes a material difference to how much money Wales receives. And actually, in simple terms, this means that the Treasury are completely arbitrary. And this is a real, real problem. And it's this sort of stuff which needs reform as much as Wales just getting a bit of extra cash here and there. It's actually these fundamental building blocks of how our country is funded that is just completely arbitrary and means nothing. But that is weird. They've made a mistake for basically 5 years.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the Treasury has this idea like it's all knowing. We don't make mistakes. Everything is every I is dotted, every T is crossed. Whereas, 5 years of, no, it's this, when actually trying to rewrite the past is a little bit weird.
It is.
It is.
Isn't
and
it?
wrong,
Yeah.
you might say.
I won't say that.
Naughty. Either way, it's not ideal. Is it? Do you know what I mean? Like, either option of what has happened there is not, and it's not giving transparent.
Yeah. That's the whole thing, that ultimately we say this every week seemingly, that what Wales gets is completely dependent on like the goodwill of someone in London and how well we manage to make our case, whereas actually it should just be inbuilt.
Yeah, that's so. Yeah, it shouldn't be hoping that they see the wood for the trees. Like, it should actually, like you said, be inbuilt structure that just makes sense.
Yeah.
It's quite arrogant to say it's a publishing error, forgetting that you've published that for 5 years on the trot and assume that people are going to be like, well, that's...
Oh, yeah,
we'll
never
never
mind.
see those people again.
No more questions.
Really threw them off the scent there.
Am I really good at my job? I feel like I've absolutely smashed that.
Yeah, if this was Scooby-Doo, it's like we dressed up as the monster to scare everyone away.
Yeah.
That's the bureaucrat monster who this will be so complicated. They'll never be able to find this percentage.
The theme park is now ours forever.
And Google this document but change the year to 2020.
Yeah, I mean, it's all been published. There's like a paper trail.
Yeah.
Exactly. Do you want to talk about Nigel Farage?
Oh, I'd love to.
Nigel Farage was in Wales this week. You see him?
I personally didn't see him, no. Did you guys see him?
We did go for some cocky teas. We have some cocktails together.
Cocky teas.
Some little cocky teas. No, I didn't go and look for him, but I heard, was he Talbot Merthyr way?
Yeah, he was doing a bit of a tour around South Wales, the places that they want to try and win votes.
Sure.
And he was trying to put some meat on the bones of their offerings to the people of Wales. Now, when I say meat on the bones, there aren't even any bones.
No, bones is generous.
It's just,
right?
he's added the bones, or he's just put kind of flesh just on the floor and said, this is my offerings to the
It's
people
a
of Wales.
dream menu at this point, isn't it?
Yeah, we're going to tighten up this analogy. What would his cocktail be?
I was trying to think of one then. 'Cause I'm thinking definitely not espresso martini because they're brown.
Moscow Mule.
Moscow Mule. There we
That's
go.
very good.
Although he's a bit pink, isn't he? So maybe
A pale ale?
Yeah.
Moving on to the politics. So I'm working on a project at the moment. I'll reveal more in coming weeks, but looking at reform
It's a
in
self-portrait.
Wales. So it's a self-portrait.
It's a mural.
Made of pasta.
A little macaroni.
I'm working on a very serious thing. Isn't Will really gluing some paper, some pasta to a bit of paper?
With some macaroni.
I'd inevitably be allergic to the glue.
Just says news. Nice little circle picture of Will, like on the tea towels you get in year 6, and everyone's faces are shit.
That guy who messaged in was right about you guys. So as part of this research, I've been speaking to people within Reform, and I've got a couple of insights which I think are quite fun. So they monitor what Welsh political parties are putting out on social media. So they monitor what Labour, Plaid, what they all do, and to try and kind of see where they're aiming at, who they're targeting, what their key attack lines are. But someone from within Reform told me that they've actually stopped even monitoring the Welsh Conservatives because there's so little engagement on their posts. They don't even kind of see them as a threat. Even though that's where they're getting most of their votes from, they don't see any need to try and actively counter them.
That is so damning. That is so embarrassing. Like, not even being horrible, that is the most embarrassing thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, that's pretty brutal, isn't it?
They're like, we're not even bothering, so not a threat.
Yeah, it's like... They're kind of like someone who's stolen someone's partner. They've stolen the Welsh Tories' partner, but they haven't even blocked them on social media. They just don't even follow them on anything. Whereas the Tories are checking Reform social media every few weeks, few days, few hours.
Yeah, they're checking. They've turned notifications on the stories. They're checking.
They're
not.
That?
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Speaking of someone who knows.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can.
I'm not in the close friends anymore. Oh no.
You fall off that little green circle. Oh gosh, I mean, what does that say though about the fact that the Welsh Tories, like, Reform is so unbothered about them? Despite the fact, like you say, that was where you would expect the majority of their votes to kind of file over from, that they're like, we're going to get them, so we don't need to be monitoring. They're not a competition.
I'm going to make a prediction.
Ooh.
I think there will be fewer than 5 Tories in the next Senate. That's my prediction. My hot take.
Wow.
I mean, that would be catastrophic for them.
The problem is, because once you start to get towards that 12% mark, the new system just punishes you.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, you could get 10% of the vote across the board and not win any seats.
I get you.
So, who are their voters? What set of ideals and policies do you have to want to follow to be voting Conservative ahead of someone else? Because they're so like Reform.
Yeah.
Who are you going... What kind of... We talk about voting cleavages in political science.
Really?
It's actually a thing. Did you ever...
I did politics at uni.
Did you not do voter cleavages?
Probably would have giggled and gone on a tangent.
Yeah. You know what you like.
We're getting messages as we speak.
Yeah.
So voting... I'm now doubting myself. Yeah, a cleavage in political science is a historically determined social cultural line which divides citizens of societies within groups. They're called cleavages.
Okay. Interesting.
I'm trying to think. That's such a good question. Like, who is their voter now? Who is it? The only thing is that a lot of people get embarrassed to be publicly saying, I vote for this party. And then when they actually get to the ballot box in secret, they're like, okay, sure. And then so parties tend to do a little bit better than we expected. So I'm not discounting that. But at the same time, that's such a good question. Like, are farmers voting for them?
So farmers are... a lot of Welsh-speaking farmers will go Plaid, and Plaid are like aggressively targeting it. In places like Powys, the Lib Dems do get some votes. Also, it's just old. It's just very, very old people.
People just maybe who always have and will not change regardless. I think maybe that's who they've got left.
So other things from the Reform. They have just hired 4 new staff, full-time staff, dedicated solely to Wales. At the moment, it's pretty much one guy doing everything. And now they're going up to 4, fully funded. These are people who are dedicated to putting Reform in front of people's eyeballs and in people's ears all across Wales. I know it sounds small, but for a party with no representation in Wales, that is actually really big. And they're referring to Wales as ground zero, which is a bit weird because that's also what people call the site of 9/11.
Let's not mix the two up.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, the Reform have already been getting quite a lot of media coverage without these 4 people whose jobs are dedicated to it. So, yeah, I mean, as we kind of thought in the run-up to next May, it's going to be a lot of Reform coverage, right? But in theory, if Farage is here to put meat on the bones, then policy can start to be announced and therefore scrutinised, and then you can start to talk about that stuff. But, I mean, a lot of what he was saying was very vibey.
Oh, we're going to come to that in a minute. Now, the party have had lots of... there's been several by-elections, haven't there, in Wales, where Reform have done quite well.
Yeah.
Now, what the party I have discovered have been trying to do with those elections is actually using them... Obviously, they want to win them because you want to give this appearance of momentum, a groundswell of support. But what they're doing is they are approaching each one slightly differently. So they're using different literature. They're using different messages. They're using different tactics in each one to see what works. So they're essentially testing. And this is much smarter than previous iterations, Brexit Party, UKIP, etc. They are being clever in how they are doing it. And I think there is something to be feared by other parties from how they're approaching things.
I'm trying to be really fair here, which is difficult, but Could this suggest that maybe Reform are taking Wales a little bit more seriously than they have before?
I think Reform are super, super serious about winning seats in Wales. I am deeply sceptical if they are serious about governing Wales effectively.
Yeah, which there's a big difference, isn't
But
there?
they are taking winning seriously.
But then the thing is, winning comes with like a consequence then, right? When they get in, they've actually got to do something.
Well, Brexit did it.
Yeah, but
Winning was its own reward for them for Brexit. They never needed Brexit to work. They needed it to happen.
But that was winning it without having to follow it through. That was winning it and washing your hands. Whereas
because they didn't have to do it. The Tories had to do it.
Yeah, which I suppose you can get in the sense of if they are the official opposition, you can win it, you can get legitimised, you can get seats, but then you don't need to go, govern. But if they win it, as in like get a majority and they're the ruling party, then they can't wash their hands of stuff. They've got to do stuff.
And they will inevitably re-implode. This is the thing. If they got into a point where they're actually expected to do stuff, which I think we can reasonably predict they're not able to do, there's surely going to be an implosion.
Like all the council seats they won in England in the recent elections, how have they been doing there in terms of actual day-to-day stuff?
Well, they've been tackling the big issues, Robin. They've been making sure that only the British flag is flown, which is obviously really, really important. And
are they, just on top of that question, are they in control of any councils, or have they just got councillors?
Yeah, they do. They control several councils.
Oh, do they?
And they were getting rid of diversity policies and things like that. This is the thing.
Oh, the old vanity project.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's waste, isn't it? That's like, and it's fine to run on that kind of mentality if there is waste in every,
The Doge.
Yeah, exactly. But as we say, it's very easy to sort of run on that.
Sure.
But then how do you then go into a council and go, well, actually, all these budgets are stretched. How do you actually find money for these things?
Yeah. I mean, there are several councils they control. One of them is my former home of West Northamptonshire.
Coincidence?
Yeah, exactly.
I think not.
The other thing I wanted to draw attention to is about turnout. So I feel quite vindicated in this because I said ages and ages ago that Reform really desperately want a big turnout. And they've basically said, yes, this is exactly what we want. If turnout is low, that favours the other parties because ultimately the people who vote in Senate elections are inclined to be engaged with devolution. Reform voters typically are not. So if there is a low turnout, it's most likely to be the people who always vote in Senate elections who tend not to be minded towards reform. Whereas if there's a high turnout, we end up with a Brexit situation where essentially a lot of people who are normally politically disengaged come in and that skews all the predictions.
Yeah, sure.
And so part of what they're doing in their planning is how do they get their voters out?
And is this obviously why Farage is in town in a big old policy blitz to say, because it's Team Nigel, isn't it? That's what the Reform Party is.
Yeah, he got very upset when he was asked by people about why they haven't got a leader yet.
What did he say?
Well, they're now saying that they will have a leader before the election, but giving no details on it whatsoever. And
that's very saying yes, you'll have a +1 to a wedding, but not having a girlfriend or boyfriend at the time. Like I will have a date for the wedding. I will. I just work better with a deadline. I think you need to have the fear. We will have a party.
I need the pressure. Okay.
I'm just on the apps. Are you free for the next 5 years? Is that okay?
Are you in Wales? That is the concept.
I've got my brother's wedding in 3 months, and I have got a suit with which I need to be considerably more ripped.
Oh, really?
Oh, interesting. Yeah. What are you doing to achieve that? Drinking Huel?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, drinking Huel.
Do you drink Huel?
No.
I got given a non-Huel, a Huel alternative.
I see, yeah.
Banana.
No, yeah. But from some company, but I don't want to have it, so I'm trying to sort of give it to people, but I feel like the company want me to post about it.
Oh, really? It's one of those, I hate when that happens. When you get something gifted and there's like, oh, have you got it? You're like, I'm not posting it.
It's like when I had to go to the Welsh BAFTAs.
You having a great time, Will, I saw you.
I was off my tits.
You were. It was a great time.
And I was like, me and Mel had a great chat, and then the next day Mel was like, oh yeah, I wasn't drinking. I was like, oh God.
Oh, sorry.
Oh God. Yeah, I actually wore the tux last weekend for the first time since the Welsh BAFTAs, and I had some very interesting You know those like driving license picture booths?
Oh,
things?
yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, photo booth. There was some in there in my breast pocket, which
Oh,
I'd
were
forgotten
there?
about. Yeah.
Would anybody interesting or just your partner?
Sheen.
She hates from steps.
Yeah.
Bradley Walsh's son, whatever his name
Oh,
is.
Barney.
Yeah.
Lovely boy.
Is he?
So what did Farage say? Farage said they will have a leader in place.
So he said they'll have a leader in place. He'll be elected before, but basically he said the same thing he said back in November when I interviewed him before, where he was like, we are a new party. You can't possibly expect us to have any policies in place yet. We are trying to build a party, but we will be in charge. So the other, he did put some meat on the bones. Now, this is like fantasy meat on fantasy bones, because these two policies that he particularly said are just so ridiculous, they're not going to happen. So one of them said he's going to open the blast furnaces at Port Talbot again. So they recently closed. Now, a few problems with that. One of them is that the blast furnace is now filled with an entire hundreds of ton block of molten, now solidified iron. So they don't exist in the same way. You'd have to remake them. You'd have had to have probably done that anyway, because part of the reason why they've closed them and switched to an electric arc furnace, which they're going to start building, apparently, is that they were coming to their end of their life anyway. It would cost billions to reopen the furnaces. The site was losing £1 million a day-ish, according to Tata. You also... Port Talbot's owned by a company in India. You can't just have it.
The problem is, though, that the closing of the furnaces really hurt the people of the town. Like, I've got friends who worked there who had to completely rethink their careers, and that was always going to be what they were going to do. So for a community that is hurt by the closure, them hearing somebody say, we're going to reopen them, of course they're going to like him. And I think there's such a mammoth task for people like yourself, Will, for the news to try and disprove why that factually can't happen, when you've literally got somebody saying, I'm going to give you exactly what you want. And I'm going, great, we don't want to listen to you. And I don't envy journalists, the news and so on, because I think it's a nearly impossible task.
Yeah, we're in this brave new world now where I think people have tried it the last decade with Trump and to sort of tackle, misinformation. And how do you do it? Because, as Trump has shown, like if you throw enough, falsehoods out there, things will slip through the net. You need to be sort of hyper aware of all these things and calling it out constantly. But with the news how it is, people will get their news. There will be a meme somewhere on Facebook saying that Nigel Farage will reopen the blast furnaces, and people will be going, he's got my vote.
Exactly.
Because that is the way that things work at the moment.
Yeah.
So how... Sorry, please.
No, you are stepping in.
No, please.
Thank you. You saying that can't happen, to the person to whom that hurt the closure, they're going to go, well, Well doesn't believe in it.
Not with that attitude.
No, exactly. There's going to be you're almost the villain, which I appreciate. You're giving the facts and the reality of it. But it's like good cop, bad cop with parents, isn't it? There's the parent who wants to take you swimming, take you to McDonald's on a Saturday, and then there's the parent who actually has to look after you the other days of the week. And who was the one you're going to like the more, you know? And it's so difficult. It's like this, I hate to use the phrase, but this post-truth era where, like you said, Robin, people just get their news where they want to get it, not necessarily where it is factual.
I agree. So in the interests of... it actually perfectly is possible to reopen the blast furnaces at Port Talbot, but what you need is a UK government which is prepared to essentially nationalise it to the tune of billions and billions of pounds, take on board to the taxpayer that massive liability, then invest in reopening those blast furnaces, which will take a lot of time and a lot of money over a concerted period of time. Nigel Farage's party are running to be in the Senedd. If you took the entire Welsh government budget, you'd be hard pushed to do it. It's not within their gift. So even if Reform win every seat in the Senedd, that vote in the Senedd election will not affect the ability to reopen the blast furnaces at Port Talbot. It's like saying voting in a council election to not elect a councillor because you want the party to support the war in Ukraine more. It's like voting in a general election because a local park is closed. Like, I understand the emotions behind it, but actually what we need to get to a point is where people understand the democratic process more and actually use their vote to be directed in a way that is appropriate for the election in which they're voting. And I totally get people not doing that. They have lives. There is really low level of political literacy. And actually, you can't expect people to know all this stuff because we're a very politically disengaged country.
Yes. So I mean, if you are to try and combat that disinformation, I think you need to attack it where it's taking place, which is social media the majority of the time. So but that stuff costs money. You know, like for Labour or Plaid or the Lib Dems or the Welsh Conservatives or the Greens to then combat that claim, then there's a lot of money that needs to go into Facebook advertising, right?
And the people who are talented in that kind of department don't tend to go and work in politics.
Yeah. I can actually see how tempting that offer of reopening the steelworks at Port Talbot is to people. And actually, if I lived there, I would be very tempted to respond to that message. Another message that he said, which I think actually is quite a significant misstep, is he said about wanting to reopen the coal mines in Wales. Now, for a whole host of reasons, that is mad. I mean, for the first one, Wales also already has the highest rate of respiratory disease in Western Europe because of those mines. We were talking earlier about those coal tips because of those mines. We were talking about the literal scars on our community and our people because of those mines. And we know that Wales has long had its resources extracted, none to the benefit of the people here. To me, that idea of reopening, firstly, you thought they were inefficient in the 80s. What do you think they're like now? Also, where is this great kind of... There's not hundreds of thousands of former miners who are just sitting there going, oh, get me down that pit. Okay, if you were 20 during the miners' strike, what would you be now? You'd be 60? Like, the idea that there's all these expertise that are waiting to go back down the pits is just a fallacy. But it also says to me, it's a mark of a man who lives and has a completely England focus, who's like, oh, Wales, what do Welsh people want? They want to go back down mines like they're the fucking dwarfs from Snow White. It's crazy because can we not hope for a little bit more of an, oh, Taffy, do you know what you're good for? Going into this pit of asthma that we want you to go and live and die in. There'll be some people who go, oh, yeah, that's really good. And that's the people that they're targeting, people who maybe aren't that engaged. But I know a lot of people who say, I would hate for them. I went down a pit. I don't want my kids to go down a pit.
I do completely agree with you. The only other side of that is that there are, again, those communities who have never recovered from the closure of those mines. And then I'm not disputing the reason that they close at all. But even if they themselves don't want to go down, they'll think in their heads, yeah, the closure of these mines just completely destroyed our community. We've lived in one of the worst cases of poverty in Europe ever since then. And this man would reverse that. Do you see the connection in their head? And I don't think the messaging isn't as stupid as I think you perhaps say. I completely agree with you. It just is, the reasoning is madness. But I think he's so good at messaging, and that's what scares me.
That's it. It's vibes and messaging. And I think like with a lot of what he says and with Brexit as well, if you unpick it at any point, it starts to fall apart. But I think what they've been so successful at is not many people unpick it. You'll see that first headline thing and go, oh yeah, no, I want to hark back to this better time before XYZ. So therefore, this is exactly the sort of policy that I'm going to do.
They get to the headline, full stop, brilliant, he gets us.
All of our attention spans are fucked at the moment. To be able to actually finish reading an article is not yours. I love yours.
Yeah.
But
I can't even finish writing them sometimes.
But I think it's tapping into a lot of society and community is fractured. Coupled that with an attention span, people are struggling. Getting past the headline is so impossible for a lot of people to do. So this is why we've talked about it before. How do you combat it? How do you scrutinise it? How do you actually unpick it?
Yeah, I mean, it's frustrating, isn't it? Because it is perfectly possible for the closure of the mines to have been done terribly, and there be responsibilities with UK and Welsh government for decades about how they have failed to fill that gap, but also the fact that actually now in 2025, do we want to send young people into mines? A
lot of the communities that were struggling with that were benefiting from a lot of EU funding, which isn't happening because of Nigel Farage's...
I think what's really difficult is those people will feel almost condescended being told, you don't want this. Do you know what I mean? And I think we have to be careful of that. Like
100%.
none of us went down those mines. None of us are from those communities where that have been destroyed by the closure of the mines. So I think we have to be careful not to condescend them and be like, you don't want this. But whilst also giving them the fact that what Nigel Farage is saying is duplicitous. You know?
That's all you can do. You present the information, and then people in a democratic society choose what they want, and then whatever happens.
Going to move on from this, but before we do, can I present you guys with one last bit of information?
Go.
Of course.
Research by the organisation DSMOG, which exposes climate change misinformation, has found that since by June last year, Reform UK had received 2.3 million from companies and organisations with oil and gas interests, highly polluting industries, and climate science deniers. This amounts to 92% of the party's donations.
Wow.
I wonder why he really wants to reopen mines. It just doesn't make any sense. Anyway.
The math is muffing.
Right, let's move on. So, a couple of weeks ago, we called on kind of charities in Wales to, if they wanted to support the podcast, but also get their message across, to give us a shout and we can talk about issues that they think are important. And this is a really tricky balancing act for us because obviously we're independent. I'm an independent journalist. You guys are independently minded comedians.
We're independent women.
I am Destiny's Child over here. I'm
yeah.
so the Beyonce.
You are strong.
Actually, I'm the third one.
The thing we wanted to do is make sure that what we're talking about, because we get lots of people offering to sponsor us who we don't really kind of want to promote. So what we liked with the charity idea is we can promote issues which actually really matter to people in Wales. And we've been approached by Oxfam Cymru. And what they want to talk about is caring in Wales and the care sector. So that's paid carers, that's unpaid carers, and that's also childcare, because that's a really big issue for people in Wales. Now, let me just give you some context. I think we spoke about some of these before, but by 2040, there'll be double the number of 90-year-olds. Like double the number of 90-year-olds.
That is a very big jump.
That is a very big jump. And the amount of people over 65 is rising 7 times faster than the number of working age people. So you're going to have lots more people needing to be looked after and fewer people to look after them. And what do you guys have ever had family that need care or anything like that?
Yeah, both my grandmothers went into care homes, like assisted living care homes, but also then sort of quite, palliative care type places. But around that time, sort of people, it takes a family member as well to sort of like fill in the gaps there. And I think, that unpaid care thing goes unspoken about, I think, quite a lot of the time. And it sort of takes, a huge amount of people's time, which people are willing to do. But it's, I've heard this described as sort of a ticking time bomb, like the care crisis within the UK.
Basically, Oxfam Cymru, Carers Wales, and the Bevan Foundation have started this thing called the Care Policy Scorecard. And it kind of ranks how countries are delivering across a whole range of stuff to do with care. So this report that they've put out, which you can find on the Oxfam Cymru website, it looks at, as I said, social care, unpaid care and childcare. So social care contributes 1.2 billion to the Welsh economy. But the average salary for people in that sector is only £24,000. Now, that's the average salary. So there's going to be a lot of people who are below that. And a third of workers are at risk of financial hardship. So one of the things that they are calling for is for... so we talk about the real living wage, don't we? And how people should pay that. And lots of organisations have committed to paying that. But when you use things like agencies, quite often that money doesn't go to the people delivering the care. That extra money goes to essentially the organisations who are facilitating it. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
We've talked about unpaid carers as well in the past. So 60% of unpaid carers feel overwhelmed. So over half. Now, bear in mind, the amount they save the Welsh taxpayer, unpaid carers, is the same pretty much as the Welsh NHS budget.
Sorry?
The amount that unpaid carers save Wales, in terms of if we were to pay them to do what they were doing, is essentially the Welsh NHS budget again.
That is incredible,
That's insane.
isn't it? And like you said, Robin, this goes mostly unspoken about.
Yeah.
People are getting this done without kind of leaning on anybody, without the financial support, without even like the emotional support, the emotional, the labour that these people are doing as well. comes with a toll. So that's an incredible figure.
Yeah, I think so. Like the people that I've chatted to who kind of, care for their parent or things like that, then you kind of lose a bit of your own identity as well, because, you're doing something, so brilliant, and I don't think people would change it for the world, but it's a lot, right? It's another job on top of everything else you're doing.
Yeah. Some support for unpaid carers is like such a good return on investment, because if you actually had to deliver it through like a company, it'd be so much harder. Also, childcare. I'm guessing you're the main one who can relate to this, because in Wales, it's like quite a confusing like patchwork system. There is no funded care for under twos.
Yeah.
Have you felt that pain?
Yeah, but I mean, like, until they get to 2, they can sort of look after themselves. It's sort of
Famously, does he even, right? 9 to 5?
Floppy heads, just sort of doing nothing. Yeah, it's a bit of a mad system, and also it's in when we got sort of childcare hours towards our daughter's nursery places when she was over 2. It's still quite a convoluted system where you have to sort of like apply for it and claim it back, and it's all it's messy.
When I was in Ebervale recently, everyone I spoke to who had a job said childcare is a big issue. It's so hard to like, I'm basically working to pay childcare.
Yeah.
And also like with childcare, I didn't realise this till one of my mates had kids. If it's like a bank holiday and stuff, or your kids don't go in because they're ill, you still have to pay it.
Oh, I mean, it's incredibly expensive. And I think, wraparound care and all these kind of things. And the staff who work there, incredible. I mean, like, I know, like, the average wage for the people working there isn't a lot. And when you're thinking of, as a new parent, handing over the thing that's most important to you in the world, and you want, like, these people are working so hard, they should be paid much, much more than they are. But I think it's, in terms of how much childcare costs for a parent, so many people either don't go back to work because they then think, well, what's the point? I'm making a net loss on this. Or you are basically working, often it's mums who are going back part-time to then, and I know a lot of, friends of mine are teachers, they're going back into the workforce to work part-time to teach other people's children to not see their children who are being stuck into childcare places.
So Sarah Rees, who is the head of Oxfam Cymru, she said that the Welsh Government's rhetoric on care does not match the reality on the ground, and the scorecard they've put together lays bare the urgent need for action, but care is underfunded, undervalued and fragmented, and the people who provide it are paying the price. So if you do want to look more into this, you can go to the Oxfam Cymru website, and thanks to them for supporting the podcast. I think it's an issue that we were happy to highlight.
Absolutely.
Guys, it's been fun. If we get out of here soon, we can hear the end of Rachel Reeves.
Yeah, there's going to be dust in my tray as I run to my car to listen to it on the radio.
One bit of it I heard at the start was her talking about assets and liabilities, and I think I was only listening to it, not watching it, but I think someone on the opposite benches has just sort of heckled her in the most perfect, like, you're a liability, and it was really funny. That is brilliant. It's great, perfect timing. Like in a beat in between her speaking as well. She wasn't fazed by it at all. She just powered through.
Yeah,
because she's not listening. She's AI.
She just has to reboot.
Yeah.
That is. I would say. I know we've talked about Shag, Marry, Kill on this podcast. I would say you two are the asset. I'm the liability.
Oh. The thing is, I don't agree with that, but I like compliments so much.
Yeah,
so
I'm only saying it because I'm not here next week, and I want you two to be nice about me.
Oh, true. Oh, yeah.
After the last
we haven't had one in a while, have we?
I cannot wait to listen.
Ooh. Oh, is there anything you don't want us to say you're doing?
I mean,
we were pretty horrific.
After the last one, we said skinned puppies. I don't know where else you could go with them. But I don't know what. I'm excited for you to guess.
Yeah,
I'm really excited.
It's a nice little creative task.
Yeah, exactly. Anything to plug? Anybody before we go?
I've got a tour on sale. I've been doing some preview gigs of the new material, and I'm really excited about it. It's really, really silly. So you can go on my website, robinjmorgan.co.uk/tour, and get tickets. I'm hitting around Wales and not Wales.
Brilliant.
England.
International.
Yeah.
I write a newsletter. Have a look.
Do you? The Will Hayward newsletter.
Indeed.
Award-winning, I've heard.
Yeah. No, that's not right. Multi-award winning.
Oh, sorry. There he is.
Clang.
There he is. Cling clang.
Mel?
Come on.
Melanie?
I'm working with BAME Ed Education Day, Anti-Racism Education Day on the 19th of June. And I'm really excited if anybody wants to go along to that. I think it would be a really good day to kind of come along to.
Nice.
Yes.
Thanks for listening, especially the person who gave us that constructive feedback. And thanks to Heyman Media.
Thank you so much.
Cheers, guys.
Bye. Sorry, I've got the giggles. Just give me a second. Sorry. I'm so sorry. It's just, we will kill you.
Someone giving us really constructive feedback on a Welsh politics podcast, and Will being like, no, that's fair enough, I'm very stats driven, and me and my, we will find you and we will kill you.
Sorry.